All right, we are live.
Okay.
Excellent. So thank you for coming back, Nikki Johnson.
No problem, Emileena. Thank you.
Of course, I just wanted to start this time because this is now our 5th video, if you can believe it, episode, as I've been calling them. And so I kind of wanted to let people in on what we've been doing here. So we've kind of named this series Another Way to View Reality. And I feel like which is apropos for our topic today, we've really synchronized because we are both writing books. I've been writing a book called Another Way, The Tao of Artist Development, and it's really in alignment with my own spiritual journey, which I've been on since about 2015, and especially, as further I go, the more all the noise kind of disappears and I get really focused in on it. And I feel like in many ways I'm following in your footsteps because you started this journey in 2007, you said.
Right. Yes.
And you're also writing a book, and your book is about enlightenment, the internal process of enlightenment. And then you just shared that you have another book too. So do a quick introduction on yourself.
Okay, sure. So yes, for everybody who's joining us again, thank you so much for coming back. Hope you've been enjoying it. I'm Nikki Johnson. I'm a speaker, discussion leader, and writer. And as Emileena said, I'm currently writing now 2 books. Same subject, but one of them is going to be shorter and graphic style. So the first one is The Internal Process of Enlightenment, Bridging Spirituality and Science. And the second one will be Self-Realization Science, The Anatomy of Enlightenment. That'll be the shorter, more graphic style one. So, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I love it. I'm so grateful to be having these conversations with you because it's really opening up my mind, and I know a lot of people that are watching are really appreciate it too. So talk to us about synchronicity.
Synchronicity.
Right? Yes. Synchronicity. Yeah, it's a hard word to say. Okay.
True. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So yes, synchronicity is a word that Swiss psychologist and psychiatrist Carl Jung coined, and he basically it means a meaningful coincidence between 2 or more events that seem to be connected by something other than the probability of chance. And so, probability is a funny thing, though. I mean, you can roll a die 1,000 times, and if it came up with 2 6s every time, okay, that's still within the probability of chance somehow, but very unlikely. And I think we'd probably suspect some sort of loaded die situation there. But basically, the point here is that the more improbable the situation is, probably the more meaningful it will feel in terms of synchronicity. So one quote that I wanted to share from Jung that I feel is very illustrative here is he was talking about, so the problem of synchronicity has puzzled me for a long time, ever since the middle 20s. When I was investigating the phenomena of the collective unconscious and kept on coming across connections which I simply could not explain as chance groupings or runs. What I found were coincidences which were connected so meaningfully that chance concurrence would represent a degree of improbability that would have to be expressed by an astronomical figure. So that's what we're talking about here. Things that kind of jar you from, well, how did that even happen? I mean, I guess it could, but again, the less probable it is, the more meaningful it is, the more it'll probably kind of shatter or shake us out of our day-to-day routine and potentially even serve as a catalyst that makes us reevaluate how reality is even put together. And in this way, it can really serve as a powerful catalyst for personal growth for us. So
absolutely. And I do want to say there too that a lot of people say, well, it's still probable, which means it's still chance, and I've heard a lot of criticism of people who make a big deal out of these coincidences. So I just want to say that I think it doesn't really matter if it's meaningful and if it's leading to something. And if you're seeing the coincidences, whether it's a legit coincidence or not, it doesn't matter if it's meaningful and it's leading to growth.
Yes. And actually, later on in this talk, I do have sort of the different camps and how they explain the
Oh, fantastic.
rationale
Oh,
behind
good.
synchronicity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, a second quote that I wanted to share from Jung, which I think is helpful and highlights an important aspect of synchronicity, is kind of actually just what you said. So, but he expressed it in this way. So synchronicity reveals the meaningful connection between the subjective and the objective world. And so when we talk about subjective, that means our own internal feelings and thoughts. And the objective world would be the external reality that we see around us. And so, again, we're traditionally taught to believe that there is one form of objective reality. We're all dropped into this bucket and we just got to deal with it. But the deeper you read into philosophy and psychology and spirituality and science, you learn that, wow, no, reality is actually filtered through all of our individual brains, all of our individual psyches, and then it is projected around us individually. And it's sort of this model that we've been talking about in previous episodes, where it's more like a multiplayer video game, where yes, we have this shared environment, but there are elements that are totally individualized. And as you raise your vibration, you raise your ability to be able to customize aspects of that reality. So we start out in third, where we all have a very similar experience, but then
down in the lower part of the chakras.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, you've been learning. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I love it.
Cool.
And I want to draw in the synchronicity between our videos too. So, yeah.
Very nice. So fourth dimensional reality, now we're starting to play with it. Now we're starting to learn about quantum physics, the fact that there can be a wave and a particle and it collapses into one form when we observe it. There are things like the law of attraction, where suddenly we're learning, oh my God, my thoughts actually help to create my reality. I can manipulate aspects based on my conscious and subconscious thoughts, things like this. And we gain the ability to customize until fifth dimension. Now we're creating it in a much more powerful way. So that's what we're doing here. Cool. But anyway, so getting back to synchronicity. So, these types of experiences, again, can really challenge our beliefs about how reality is put together. And so this can serve as a really powerful catalyst that makes us realize, wow, I need to reassess my worldview. So very powerful stuff. Now, again, we'll get into a little bit later, the different rationale for synchronicity that these various camps have. But I figured I would first start by just going into types of synchronicity. So the most common one, although certainly, it's not limited to this category, would be number synchronicity. So seeing repeating numbers, sometimes labeled angel numbers. So repeating digits, the same time on the clock every day. You're just noticing 111 and 222 and 333 and 444, 555 for sure. I mean, I went through such a crazy period of that during early awakening for sure. Yes, but other instances of repeating numbers as well. And I mentioned in our first episode, for me, it was just 33 and 333 and 333. Like, it was ridiculous. Yeah.
And today some people say that today's it adds up to 22, right? 422 2020, so it adds up to 444.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So today it's still technically 444, I guess. But
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So two common reasons for why these number synchronicities are so prevalent. So first of all, no matter what culture you live in, you've got a numbering system of some sort. And for most people on the planet, we're using the same one. Now, for people who speak Arabic, they do have different numbers. But for most of the world, we use the same numbering system. And so you have these things where, you're noticing those 111, 222, 333. And because of the internet, now we have the ability to go on there and get what is going on. And so for, these successive generations of people waking up at different times, we can help to enlighten one another about what is going on, kind of awaken us to, wow, all these different areas that I had yet to explore, that I had no idea existed. So there's that element, but then there's also sort of a more profound aspect to it as well. So the thinking.
And Life of Pi, by the way, have you ever seen, not Life of Pi, Pi. It's just called Pi. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've seen Life of Pi, but not Pi.
Right. Yeah, so I always get confused. But Pi, which was, I think, Darren Aronofsky's first movie, is about kind of these coincidences with numbers, specifically pi. He sees pi everywhere, 3.14.
Yes,
anyways, it's just an interesting pop culture reference that I like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, gosh, where was I? So the thinking is that mathematics provides the precise framework for that defines all of the spatial relationships, movement within our universe. And so, based on that, we figure that we can use numbers, therefore, to analyze and explain all aspects of creation. And so this is the essence of numerology. And so the study of numbers and the way that they each exhibit certain unique harmonic attributes. And so, this is the fundamental form of expression for cosmic order and structure. And so if we learn to decode this mathematical language, we can gain insights into our particular place in the larger picture, the cosmic whole. So,
and numerology has existed since the beginning of time too, right?
Exactly. So you got the Egyptians and the Armenians, and so
all had
many
number
different cultures.
And a lot of them had the same equations, which I don't know if you're going to get into. What's the one that's like fractals? It's not, I want to say the golden mean, but or the golden ratio or
Fibonacci sequence.
Yes, the Fibonacci. Yes. Of course, Fibonacci events. That's what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's not in this one, but
okay. That's another.
Fractals are everywhere. But
you
got the idea, right? That math is everywhere. It's the framework for reality. And so you figure you can use numbers to define basically any phenomenon that we can observe. That's the idea. So, and interestingly, you brought up the 422 adding to 444. So similarly, I did an article earlier this year about the date for Groundhog Day. It was 02/02/2020. Which is a reverse mirror date or a global palindrome. So backwards and forwards, exactly the same.
Right.
And so, but it was the first time in 909 years. And as I was doing research for that, I learned, Jung had such incredible ideas about the role of numbers for us. So, he considered it to be the link between mind and matter, because he figured, this is the bridge between the visible material world and the invisible world of the psyche. Because numbers have this qualitative and quantitative element to it, it links mind and matter, which is super interesting. I mean, this was his solution basically to the hard problem of consciousness. So this is how they interact.
Cool. Very cool.
And so Jung believed that numbers basically serve as symbols of the self's coming to consciousness. So pretty significant. So, and then you figure too, so we have the master numbers, which are very significant to secret societies such as the Freemasons. So the master numbers being 11, which is considered to be highly intuitive, 22, which is the master builder, and then 33, which is the master teacher. And so, and of course, the 33rd degree is the highest degree that you can have in Scottish Rite Freemasonry. And actually, my grandfather was a 33rd degree Mason.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, dude. So it's in my blood.
Right.
But this is important because you figure Freemasons, these are our presidents. These are the people that built the structures of our society. Okay. And this is all based on numerology as well. So, cool. But then you have going back to, just the prevalence of this as instances of synchronicity. So angel numbers, right? So particular numbers that we see over and over again. And some of the most common examples are the ones that, have these repeating digits. So You can look any of these up, and I would encourage people to start doing that if you start seeing them regularly. But once you kind of get familiar with it, it almost becomes like a form of shorthand for you, with a higher version of intelligence. And so we can go through the meanings of some of these. So 111 is generally, okay, pay attention to your thought. What thought did you just have? And it's either positive or negative. So it's either like, yes, that is helping you to create a really positive reality, or you might want to rethink that one, because if your thoughts are powerful enough to help, manifest the reality that you see around you, maybe you might want to edit that last thought. So and it's also often a sign of awakening into additional bits of consciousness. So 222 is generally a positive affirmation. So yay, you're on the right path, you're doing the right stuff. So good job, keep up the good work type of thing. 333 is generally, okay, the universe is working on manifesting whatever it is that you desire, your intentions and everything. So you have our support, basically.
Yeah,
the angels are with you.
That's what I've read, that the angels are like telling you, we're here, we're supporting you, you're doing it right, basically.
Exactly. Now 444 is you are powerfully supported in whatever it is that you're doing. So basically one level up, like the archangels are supporting you.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. 555 is generally huge changes are on the way. So expect big changes and generally dramatic stuff. Now, sometimes this is positive. Sometimes this comes in the form of what we would see as upheaval. And so, but we got to remember, I mean, at the end of the day, all of this stuff is designed to help us. And it's a similar situation with coronavirus, right? Where, it's certainly an uncomfortable period. Yes, exactly. But at the end of the day, this is a healing period for the earth, for us individually and collectively. So
and also I think what's interesting is that you could look at it as a higher power sending you these, but you could also just look at it as this is what I love about the Jung quote, actually, is that you're the one, your brain is the one recognizing these. So in some ways you could even see it as projecting it to yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
So we've talked about in a previous episode, so the idea that the consciousness splits into these different levels.
Right.
So it is exactly like you said. So
a higher consciousness sending it to your lower consciousness or whatever.
Yes. So this is the one that's planting those little nods, those little winks that yes, you're on the right path, kind of thing.
Cool.
Yeah. You can think of it in terms of a higher version of yourself. Yes.
Yeah, word. A question has come in.
Okay.
So it's tell me where it stands in your talk here. But he asks, what about 639?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go through the ones that are most common, but then there are some references that you can use to look up the significance of any number. So
and that comes from Matthew Hagum. Shout out to Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay, keep going.
But I'll get through the repeating ones first.
Yeah.
So 666 is generally your thoughts are out of alignment right now. So either you're too materially focused or you're mentally or emotionally a little unbalanced. So find your center again.
And isn't that the evil number too?
It's not necessarily evil, but I think it maybe got that association because of the too materially focused. Now, people who use, people who do dark magic and stuff, they'll use this one in combination with the downward triangle and basically directing energy solely toward the earth. Whereas, the vehicle for ascension would be the Merkaba, which is upward triangle, downward triangle, and both in balance. So it's not just about enriching our life here. It's also going both ways. Yeah. And we want to elevate our consciousness as well. Not just,
that makes sense. Okay.
Exactly. So 777 is generally congratulations, sort of from a cosmic perspective.
High five.
Yes.
High five. Okay, cool.
Yes, you've been listening to higher guidance, and luck is on your side. Often a sign of Positive abundance is on the way. You can think of the 777 at the casinos, jackpot, that sort of thing. Yeah. So always glad to see 777 when it comes up.
Yeah, right.
Now, 888 is also similarly a sign of success and prosperity. But with this one too, there's also an element of, a sign of personal responsibility, that you reap what you sow kind of thing too. So, and realizing your potential, these sorts of themes.
Okay, cool. I feel like there's tarot cards attached to all of these as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are very common themes.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And everything is connected ultimately.
Yeah, right. That's synchronicity.
Exactly. Yay! Good pronunciation.
I know. I gotta write this. I have to keep saying it until I get it right. Okay, cool.
Yes. Okay. 999 completion. So, you're at the finish line for achieving your goal. 1010, you're moving toward a higher purpose in life. This is a time for personal development and spiritual awakening and enlightenment. But it's also encouragement to keep your thoughts and your actions positive.
Okay, interesting. Okay. It's also 1010, which is ones and zeros, which is what's it called? The
Numerology?
Code. And the code that like we send out to aliens.
Oh, binary. Okay.
Binary, right.
There we go. Okay.
I just don't know the language, but I know the concepts. Okay, yeah. So 1010 is also binary.
Yeah, sure.
1010.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. Now 1111 is generally so powerful opportunities are opening up. Your thoughts are manifesting really fast right now. So new gateway kind of thing. And 1212 is generally a sign of completion. So you're putting one thing aside and now step out of your comfort zone and start new things, new projects, new ventures, that sort of thing. Yeah. So anyway, but for the one that Matt mentioned and any other number, you can look up these things. You can always type in 969. I believe it was 969 angel number.
639.
639. Okay.
Yeah.
So just type in the number, angel number, hit search. One of the ones that I like that comes up a lot is Joanne's Sacred Scribes is my favorite reference. Okay. But there's a ton of sites that
they're pretty generic though. I've looked them up before. I've looked up 333 and 444, and like every time I look it up, it's basically what I've seen is just some kind of generic version of this is your angels telling you you're on the right track.
Exactly. So, I mean, and in the beginning, I would urge people kind of look around at the different sources. There are always, no matter who you are, there are going to be sources that resonate with you more closely than others.
Absolutely.
And so, there are multiple ways up the mountain. And so,
and it's how you interpret it.
Exactly. So check a couple of different sources and just see what jumps out at you. And sometimes, there'll be a time, maybe a period in your life when you see a certain number repeatedly and you look it up and there's a particular portion of it that, that feels like that's what this means. It hits you. Your intuition says, yes. That's the piece of this that is most important. But then there may be a time when it comes up later and you actually identify with a different piece of it. So, but again, it's gotten to the point similar with what you found with 333 and 444 or whatever, where you know what it is. It's kind of like once you start getting into tarot as well. Okay, I see that card again. I know what it means. It has multiple meanings, but it generally means this for me. So you kind of and again, it comes down to it becomes this shorthand form of communication with your higher self. So
and I think
a higher form of intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you see it or when you feel it, you can also check in with yourself. That's what, what I was trying to do when I first started seeing the synchronicities in numbers is like, where am I at? What am I thinking right now? And where am I in my journey right now? And why am I seeing this number? So you can kind of maybe piece it together yourself. And again, if it is, you see it as a higher version of consciousness communicating with you, it's good to kind of try to find that alignment. You can. It's in there. It's all in there somewhere.
Oh, yes. We're just awakening to it for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So those are the most common. Oh, Doreen Virtue is another name that you'll see often associated with angel numbers. I think she was the
Okay,
first one who really popularized it, like
cool.
on a massive scale. Yeah. But again, Joanne's Sacred Scribes is my favorite of the ones that generally pop up like online.
Okay.
But anyway, there are plenty of other types of synchronicities as well. So,
Yes.
and one good source that we can definitely put in the description is Loner Wolf. So I love this guy's blog for just
Mm,
different spiritual and psychological topics. Does a really
okay,
good job. But
cool.
anyway, so some of the ones that he mentioned were just seeing repeating symbols. So whether it's a particular shape, infinity sign, the tree of
Mm,
life, that sort of thing.
mm-hmm.
And one example is so this is sort of a classic one from Jung, where he was meeting with one patient, and this was a pretty tough nut in terms of she was a hard edged like intellectual, and so he figured, man, this is gonna take some work to like be able to help this lady, right? But she
Mm-hmm.
had related a dream where she had dreamed about golden scarab. And so while he's sitting there with her, there's a tap at the window, and he goes and he opens it, and it's this beetle, and he grabs it and he hands it to her, and he's like, "Here's your golden scarab." And it was gold. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, wow.
And actually, what's amazing about it is that, yeah, that really helped him. Then she kind of exactly what we said before, where a lot of times this is the catalyst where you realize, oh my gosh, this rigid worldview that I had, it doesn't accommodate this experience. I have to expand my
Well,
mind
right.
a little bit to allow this to have even happened.
Yeah,
So really cool. So that's
yeah.
what it did. Yeah. It
It
helped.
broke her out of it. I always say it kind of only just takes once you're broken out of it, it gets a little bit easier. It's that first time is the hardest.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Having someone show me something out of my dreams, like on cue, that would do it.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. She must have been like woke.
Yeah, word.
But okay. Another one is coming across repeated themes across multiple modalities. So I'll give you
Mm.
an example of this. So 2014, I went to Tulum, Mexico, and I was reading a
Cool.
book by Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. Or I think Gurdjieff is like Armenian and Greek, and Ouspensky is Russian. But anyway,
Okay.
so amazing book. But then I would look up, and there would be a scene that illustrated what I had just been reading in the book, and then I would wander over, and there was a movie playing for a bunch of people on the beach, and the movie illustrated the same thing that had just been
Nice.
illustrated over there in the book as well, and that just
Nice.
kept happening. And so
Nice.
yeah, as you raise your vibration, you get to the point where we allow these experiences to be fluid like that too.
Mhm.
So it's a good sign that you're in a good place
Yeah, well,
vibrationally.
it's
So
alignment. I like to call it
exactly,
alignment.
exactly, and it does come through the pineal
Right.
gland as well too.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. Um, so another one would be dreaming about something and then having it occur. So
Mm.
sort of a precog type situation. And it's
Mhm.
cool because my cousin and a couple of my friends, yeah, they've had some significant experiences with this, which is really awesome. So
Yeah, yeah, me too.
yeah.
I used to tell everybody in high school that it was because my initials are ESP.
Ooh, I
I know,
love
right?
that.
Cool. I know.
Yes.
But yeah, I like that one. That one's kind of an easy or deja
Dude,
vu.
I would monogram everything.
Right? I know. I know. I love that.
Okay, cool. So, and another one, similarly, thinking about something and then having that happen.
Right.
So, for example, you're thinking about a particular person and then they either call you or email you or you run across them on the street.
Yeah.
I've had that happen so many times. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
me too, me too,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah. So anyway, but as you were saying, generally this is a series of events that seem to be highly symbolic and meaningful in nature. And again, it comes down to how probable is this event. The less probable it is, probably the more meaningful it will feel. The more it kind of shakes you out of that, wow, it's a piece of cognitive dissonance,
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
it enters your world and you realize, okay, I got to expand my mind a little bit in order to accommodate that. And so again, it can be a catalyst for amazing growth.
If you're listening,
yes,
throw that in there. You got to make sure you're listening, because if not, it can just, that's part of being open and listening to it and allowing it to happen without judgment. Because the second we start putting too much judgment on it, then it clouds, I think, your purpose.
Right. Yeah, gotta be listening.
We'll
gotta
talk more about that
watching
in the Taoist, in our Taoism one. Yeah.
Yes, cool. Okay, so in terms of the rationale for synchronicity, different camps have different views on why this occurs. So we'll start with the skeptics. So the skeptics call synchronicity apophenia. And basically this is a word that means the perception or belief in connectedness among unrelated phenomena. So, and you know, it certainly must be admitted that the brain is hardwired to see patterns, okay, for an evolutionary purpose. So back when we were, just jungle people, being chased by the saber-toothed tiger, we learned that, maybe a certain type of rustle in the grass could mean that a predator was in there. And so we would hightail out of there. It was the difference between surviving and not surviving. And so, so many of our brain portions, go back to this evolutionary jungle man still. And so our brain is hardwired to see patterns and connections because it helped us survive. But at the same time, this kind of reminds me, though, of big data and what we have to do when we're in training machines to do machine learning. So if you're looking at a very small data set, just a few individual pieces, and sometimes these patterns just aren't immediately apparent. But when you zoom out and you see a large enough data set, then damn, there's definite patterns in this set. And so, getting back to a lot of what we were talking about with the simulation theory episode, where, these patterns that just emerge, the Fibonacci and the fractals and all that stuff. But it also reminds me too, though, of emergence theory. So this is one of the theories that are out there about how consciousness even emerged from material reality. And so basically, as we observe inorganic things such as hurricanes and even traffic patterns in signals, there are certain recurring patterns that emerge from these things that almost resemble consciousness and then tend to kind of perpetuate themselves. And so
interesting.
Exactly. And so this pattern, exactly. So, you look at this, it again comes down to the data set. And, if you're tapped into a larger data set, well, then you have the ability to see these connections a little more easily than someone who may be vibrationally, lower on the scale. And again, higher, lower, it's not a judgment thing at all. We're all learning at all points on this.
And you know what I said the other day, which I think I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on, is I was like, I feel because we are one and we are dependent on each other, we're interdependent, and we are one consciousness, that the lower versions of the people who are lower vibrations, if you will, higher vibrations are still dependent on that. It's like if you took any piece out of the puzzle, it doesn't work.
Totally.
So at all times we have to have people at all places in it. And so it's another reminder to appreciate, wherever you are and wherever somebody else is on that chain.
For sure. We can't all be hammers. We can't all be nails.
Exactly.
Yeah. But we're all exactly where we're supposed to be. But for those who are, transitioning from one to the other, that's sort of where I am. That's where you are too. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're looking towards. So
yeah, exactly. That's what we're speaking to.
Yeah. So anyway, but one other point that I wanted to throw in here in terms of apophenia would be, so we have the reticular activating system. This is a particular piece of the brain that is designed to figure out what should be incorporated into that external view of reality that we have. So many things are filtered out. I mean, even mainstream science says that matter represents 4% of what's out there. So 96% of things we are filtering out right now in 3D and 4D reality. So the reticular activating system is the one that once we've sort of designated something as being important or relevant, it will show us more of that thing. So if you suddenly notice, oh, a red car, you know, then suddenly your brain is showing you more red cars. And the people, the skeptics, the people who are saying, this is just apophenia, you know, a lot of them say, well, that was already there, and it's just, you're just noticing more of it. And I'll certainly hand that to them. That's what happens too. That's certainly part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is also law of attraction.
Oh, yes. And I was just going to say, we should do, I think, a future episode on like the neuroscience of law of attraction.
Yeah.
This is definitely, nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely the basis for that.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Okay, now, then you have the economic behavioralists who say that this is, or attribute it to confirmation bias. And for the same reason. So, you know, just as we were talking about with the reticular activating system. So once we have a belief or we've decided that something is important, then our brain will show us more of that thing. So, yeah. And again, fair enough. Our brain is hardwired to do this. So, but there may also be other things at play, is all we're saying. So now quantum physicists attribute synchronicity to the non-local mind. This is a very interesting concept that we'll have to do a future episode.
Like collective consciousness, right?
Exactly. This is a scientific way of saying universal consciousness, right?
Yeah,
so,
this is why I love quantum physics.
I know.
Cool.
So yeah, and this is definitely 4D stuff. Before, and it literally, and I would be interested to hear if this is true for you as well. I mean, before my awakening, I didn't hear about quantum physics at all. That was my 4D period.
Yeah, me neither. I was shocked that it went back as far as it did, because I was like, how did I not know about this?
Exactly. It's a 4D thing.
Yeah.
Again, it's what we were talking about with synchronicity, that these things are always there, and you awaken to other aspects of reality depending on where your vibration is at any given time.
They appear when you need it, when you're ready for it. It's like the teacher appears when you're, absolutely.
The student,
The student. Well, no, the teacher appears when the student is ready, right?
Yes, that was it. Yeah. So anyway, psychologists would, particularly Jungian psychologists, believe synchronicity comes from the unconscious mind and the collective unconscious. So this is just basically a psychological way of saying the same thing as the non-local mind. So as you start to go through the individuation process, you start to dredge up what's in the subconscious. You know, these are little signs and symbols that this process is underway. And so, so a lot of the signs and symbols that come up synchronistically are archetypal. So
yes, and enter Joseph Campbell, and where my book is The Hero's Journey. So lots of archetypes. That's a whole nother episode too. Cool. By the way, we're at about 40 minutes.
Super interesting. Yeah. Okay, so and then the Hindus believe that synchronicity is a manifestation of the Brahman, or the fundamental connection of all living things with the universe. So again, spiritual way of saying exactly the same thing.
And Brahman, they believe the Brahman is basically like their God. They're all knowing God because they have so many gods. Brahman
the Godhead,
the Zeus of gods. Yeah.
Or even
they would not describe it that way, but that's, I feel like that's shorthand as saying Brahman.
I always equate that with the Godhead.
Godhead, exactly.
The big guy upstairs, the huge one, the largest one. But anyway, so, and this is conceptualized for the Hindus in terms of Lord Indra's jeweled net, and also the idea of the microcosm and the macrocosm and the microcosm mirroring one another. And that is reflected too in so many different cultures. It's as above, so below for the Egyptians. You know, this concept that, us on an individual level, we're just mirroring that larger picture. So
that's a hologram. That's also the right? It's a hologram.
Exactly. Yeah, the two
Universe.
concepts are very closely tied.
Yeah.
And then just spiritualists of all faiths basically see this as a form of connection between a higher form of intelligence. Whether you want to think about that in terms of your own higher self, as we were discussing before, whether you want to perceive that in terms of angelic beings, or just more of a force of nature, such as spirits. You know, you can think of
Or
it
another
however you
dimension
want.
and aliens, whatever, wherever
Totally.
you want to go with it.
Totally. Yeah,
Cool.
it's your world, man.
Exactly. You were.
But so yeah, that's the rationale. So everyone watching can certainly come to their own conclusion about this.
And should, because there's always another way.
There always is another way. So, but yeah, one thing I would want to say is if you've had experiences like this, certainly share them. So throw them in the comments. Or if it's a long thing, certainly feel free to email me at selfrealizationscience@gmail.com. I was thinking maybe of doing a series later on moments of synchronicity for things that happen in my life, but then maybe also other people.
Sharing them, yeah, comments, like a comments episode. Yes, absolutely, because so many people just write it off and then forget about it. And it's really cool. And when you start hearing other people's stories that are so different from around the world, and these synchronicities, you know, it's like really cool. That would be awesome. I would love to do that.
Yeah, they're so fun too. So and can be really powerful too. In terms of catalyst. But yeah, before we go, I just wanted to share one that happened last week. Yes. Okay. So right after we did our pineal gland activation episode, which was awesome.
Great episode. It's on my YouTube station at TSGO Prods, which stands for The Show Goes On Productions, TSGO Prods. And also, this is on Facebook, but you can also get there on YouTube because we're posting everything on YouTube with the long list of links.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just a little plug. Subscribe.
Okay, cool. But yeah, as soon as we finished that episode, I went to the woods to do my daily walk and meditation. And it's funny because there's a certain spot where I meditate, and I've even said, even before this episode or this instance of synchronicity, I was affectionately calling it with my cousins and some of my friends the wormhole, because there's this circular vine that I step through, and then like I sit down and I meditate, right? So anyway, that was before this happened. So I walk up there, and just as I'm about to reach that spot, there's a spider web that catches my eye, and this thing, I don't know, there was something seriously amazing about it. Just the symmetry of it. And, you know, the sun was setting behind it. And so you just had seriously like all the colors of the rainbow reflecting off this thing. Then I put my camera up to it, and oh my God, amazing. So there's just this.
I'm posting it.
Perfect. So yeah, now the structure of it itself, there's absolutely nothing circular to it whatsoever. There's this little catch piece at the bottom, and then all of these individual threads that go in every which way, and they're all different sizes, and you know, it's order out of chaos.
Like fractal. Like fractal.
Or I don't even know. It's not even that. It's just
okay.
It was, you know, just all these different pieces, different directions, different sizes, whatever, but they all converge, and you can clearly see this circle. And even the way in the video that I
just posted it, actually
streamable.
Yeah, if people click that link, they can see it.
Exactly. So if you do that, you can see that the light even bounces off of it, or you know, it like there's something there. It's so wild. Okay. So, but then the cool thing is that then I realized, oh my God. So while I was researching or prepping for our little pineal gland activation convo, then you know, there was this graphic that was a worm, like a third eye.
Yes.
The wormhole there. I don't know if you can put that one up too.
I know. I'm not sure I can. I don't know how to do images in here.
Maybe later. Maybe
We'll do it later.
Okay. But anyway, yeah. So this is an image that I saw literally an hour before this happened. where there's this wormhole shape, right?
Yeah.
Appears in my reality when you open your third eye, as we were talking
Right.
about
When you're listening with your third eye.
Now, the significance of the image and why it appeared in reality. So basically, and the connection to the concept of a wormhole. So this is a passage to higher dimensional thinking. This is being able to see, to perceive that mathematical layer of reality that is not perceivable to the five senses. It's only perceivable through here, through the pineal gland. And so what's cool too is right after this, oh my God, I had this completely trippy moment where I had to stop because I had this sense of, okay, picture, so every given point is connected by a line.
Right.
But then add sort of a two-dimensional element to that where it's planar. So every surface, I just had this sense of everything being connected. You know,
here's the image of the wormhole.
Perfect.
Did it. And there's a third eye being open to it.
Freaking insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, being tapped into where you can start to see the math within that holds everything together, the causal layer that is not perceivable to the five senses. So anyway, and then it was kind of reading too about the significance of spider. Oh, because that was the other thing that I ended up with a spider bite on my back. And it could have been related to the situation because he could have been like, "Hey, get off my lawn,"
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's my
wormhole.
But anyway, yes. So there's a photo. Yay! You figured out how to do it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, but just reading more about the significance of spider because the fact that I got a spider bite and this. Okay, so spiders are really significant to me. What is the meaning of spider? No. In the same way that these other synchronistic things come up, where you look it up, what are the characteristics for that animal and how does that apply to my life? So yeah, I mean the most significant thing that popped out of those descriptions is again just this interconnected web of life that we're talking about. The fact that everything is connected, starting to be able to perceive that level of reality, which is super, super awesome.
Yeah.
And but also the shadow work that comes with that too. We're certainly in that period as well.
With the
coronavirus. Yeah. But the coolest thing about this thing is that, again, in looking at those individual threads, different sizes, different lengths, like just all different no perceivable order to this thing whatsoever, but they converge to create this beautiful shape. And what's cool too is, this only happens at a specific period of time per day, as the sun is going down, the color aspect of it. But even once the sun has gone down, I can still sense that circle being there. Which is amazing. But then, okay, so over the weekend, I went back and, over the weekend, there was a rainstorm and the web was sadly washed away. Now, Monday, I went back and interestingly, okay, there were two new webs there. But they were the more traditional kind that we're used to seeing, the two-dimension, very pretty to the physical senses. They didn't have this like crazy effect, right? And while I was watching, two of the threads over here just kind of broke off of the tree and it kind of folded in on itself, which was weird. And I thought about the meaning of that. And, we see this happening a little bit in our world right now.
Our economy is kind of going in on itself.
Certain structures are collapsing in on themselves. But it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Because in nature, you have cycles everywhere.
Which is very Taoist. We'll get to
that. For sure. Okay. So, all right. So that happened. And what was interesting too is immediately after that, so I'm walking home and I looked up stock news And one of the first articles that came up was, so remember in our first episode, we were talking about how, so basically there are two completely separate issues going on right now. You have the virus, but then you have a long-standing situation that has been brewing for way longer than before the outbreak even began.
Right, the zeitgeist.
Yeah. Well, there's that too, but also specifically the petrodollar system and the fact that this is tied to oil and oil money is drying up right now, or that paradigm is on shaky ground right now because it's probably not the best for us. It's not the best in terms of perpetuating war. It's not the best for our environment. It doesn't match our current vibration. And so, you know, you have
for the majority. It doesn't match the majority of
right. Yeah. So, you know, we have certain structures right now that are falling apart, but it's okay because they're going to be replaced. So, cycle of life. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we need.
So, had watched that on Monday. Yesterday, I went back out there and there was another web of the first type that was that was now in place of that second one that had collapsed. I swear to God.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And again, same sort of effect to it with the circle. Yeah. So
this one.
Yeah, it's okay.
That one.
I mean, yes. So this is not just a fluke. This is the way this spider builds this web. This mathematical pattern is built into it. Even though, again, the individual threads just look completely random. And so, it's freaking amazing.
Beautiful.
And mind-blowing. Yeah. So I think the message here is definitely of hope. Some things in our life that may have seemed pretty, that may have seemed familiar, are going to go away. It's okay. Because they're going to be replaced by that next paradigm.
And we need Yeah, absolutely. And we can't hold on to them. There's this beautiful quote at the end of Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, you know, about the hero's journey, where it's something about how, you know, he looks at the template of creation stories, and in every creation story, the creators has to like be killed by his creation. And it has to happen. They have to die. They can't just be chastised. They have to die. And that is, and he says that the keeper, I'm paraphrasing, but like the keeper is the enemy, or has to die, not because they represent the past, but because they keep. They're not the keeper of the past, they are the keepers. And so anyone who clings to any way, if you will, you know, or any way of being, way of living, any system, if you cling to it for too long, it's got to fall, because that's evolution will have its way. It's a crumbling and a rebirth system. And you know, if we don't honor it, then we get lost within it, you know?
Absolutely. And so, yeah, in our chakra episode, we talked about how the pineal gland is blocked by attachments and limited beliefs. That kind of goes into what you just said. On a personal level, if we're dependent on any given thing, any given person, any given place, I guess, for now, to make us method, substance, anything. If we are dependent on that particular thing to make us happy, we're not going to be able to rise to that next level, because it's about doing that within. So we can use all of these things. I was going to say tools, and then I almost stopped myself because I don't use people as tools, but you know what I mean. Everything is a method. We can use these things to help us to grow, but we can't become dependent on any given thing, like you said. And two, on a personal level, you know, that same cycle of having to let go, having to surrender certain things, and then the new thing comes in. The new thing replaces it. The new thing, the vacuum kind of pulls that new thing in. We have to let go of the old first. I've been through that cycle so many different times.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. It's hero's journey. You talk about fighting with the shadows. It never ends. Development never ends.
For sure. So but But ultimately, it's a message of hope that, yeah, there are
Yeah.
certain things that are going to fall apart right now, but the next level things are going to come in, and
Word.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Word. Beautiful.
Yes.
Awesome.
So there's one final quote that I was going to share from Jung,
Okay.
and that is, synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. And so this kind of gets back to, but I wanted to end on that note as well, that, you know, this stuff is all around us. These signs, these symbols, they're there already. It's
Yes.
just becoming conscious of them. It's just starting to notice them. And it's cool too. I mean, I don't know, it just adds like this element of magic into our lives again. And you kind of feel like a kid. And that's why, you know, if you guys have had experiences like this, definitely share, because
Please share.
they're so fun.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. So we can help pump each other up too for this process. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love it.
Okay.
Awesome. Don't forget to subscribe at TSGO Prods, as in Productions, on YouTube. You know, you can also get there if you're watching this on my company page or on Nikki's page. It all links together. So please join us next week. And anything else? Okay.
No.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys later.
Okay. Bye, guys.